sure you keep up with all the new content on Gaming for XP. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell, and we'll let you know once we've uploaded anything that's new. See ya! Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to the last part of the build for the Abernathy Asylum. I have no idea why I just shut the doors and opened them again. No idea whatsoever. So today, as I said, last build video, what we'll try and do is we'll try and kind of start to pull things together a little bit more as far as the courtyard and some of the wings. And I'm not quite sure what I'm doing here. Wow. As you can tell, guys, I don't look at the footage too often. I just chuck it in and start voiceovering. So yeah, we're going to work in this area and down below today. This, just be warned, there's a lot of this has been sped up. There's a lot of chopping around. I've tried to make it flow as much as possible. But I thought it was important to put this footage up so you get a kind of feel of where we are at this point where we started, and eventually what it all kind of melds or melts into and becomes. So we're down in the bottom here. I'm just trying to gauge how much headroom I've got and whether I'm going to be able to walk around in here. And what happens is absolutely I can walk around down the bottom here. Now, as I said, this is the last build. There will be a tour next week, and I think you're going to be quite amazed at how this transitions and transforms into a total building. You're going to see a lot today of how things just start to come together. We're going to do a whole lot of stuff in today's build, and you'll kind of start to see the vision of where I'm all going with this. At this point, it's just pretty much a shell, I guess. Now I'm going to put a set of stairs there so I can get up here, and I'm going to put them in a spot where I can actually physically get up onto the top here like that, and then we're going to start laying some foundations down. And you can see we're cranked the amplifier up to 11 and we're off and running like a fair. Now, a lot of that happens in this build. In fact, a lot of weird stuff happened in this build, and some really weird stuff. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to lay out this area above. This is going to be an outside area, and so the floors, and this is a thing when you are building, the configuration of the floors to get walls to stick to things and all kind of stuff like that is one thing that you need to give some thought to, and it's one thing that caught me out a bit in this build, and I ended up having to kind of reconfigure a whole lot of the floors on different levels a number of times. And you can see these floors don't want to snap for some reason. So I have to lay a whole lot of them out here like this and then bring them in and use place anywhere. I don't know why. There's no rhyme or reason why they don't snap in like that, but anyway. So this is going to be the outdoor courtyard area in here. Look at that, it just won't go green. It doesn't matter where you snap it. It's really, really strange. And this is kind of sort of what causes a whole lot of grief and time in your builds. Anyway, luckily we've got a place anywhere to find our way around it. Okay, so that's the courtyard kind of defined out here as far as flooring goes. And you'll see what I mean in a second about how I've defined the floors and how I've used different size pieces to help me with the overall configuration. Something I don't think a lot of people talk about in their build videos, but I thought it is very important that you understand that. Whenever you're going into a new area, you always want to get some kind of starting point. I'll get the floors down, but I want to define this area, and I start with finding there's a fountain here somewhere, and I drop it down, and in the end I don't use this, but it actually, even though I don't use it, it helps to get a direction set for where I'm going with this. So we'll work on that one. I didn't realise how big these fountains were. Now, if you have been in Parsons Asylum, you will know that there's an outdoor area, and this has kind of been the influence for this particular area here. And the fountain, there is a fountain in the middle of that outdoor area, so hence why I started with that. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to define the kind of inner walls, if you like, of the courtyard. I try these cross beams. It doesn't work. And then just by chance, as I'm flicking through, I'll go, oh yeah, columns. Oh, these look interesting. I can use these. So throw a heap of these columns out, and you can see how they're snapping to those quarter kind of pieces that I've put out here, and that kind of starts to get me moving in the right direction that I need to go in. So we're going to put a heap of these out along the perimeter. Big word. Yep, big words on this channel, people. And then we're going to start to define kind of how, oh, yeah, why are those there? They need to be pushed across one. So there we go. Now it takes me a long time, and you're going to see a cut in a minute. It takes me a long time to find barriers that kind of should go and define this area a little bit more, and this will become apparent in a minute. Now this footage has been cut down from probably an hour and a half, nearly 2 hours of footage, to around 20 minutes. So there, like I said, there is going to be a lot of movement, a lot of chopping around. A lot of the build process is trying to find items that are going to work for you. What I had a problem with here is a lot of the walls that I initially tried to use were too high for what I wanted to do in this area. So tried a whole lot of things, and eventually I come across the solution. And as they say in SpongeBob SquarePants, about 5 hours later, I tried so many configurations, I end up using these shack railings from Workshop Rearranged, and they're perfect. They're just the right height, and snap that one in to try and get this to snap across at the same height, and then you can remove that one and you've got your entranceway. So I'm going to go around and then put these all the way around. Now you can see we have a bit of an issue here with this length, so I'm just going to pull that in like that, and then we're going to use that edge as the edge of the actually that's not what I do, but beg your pardon, this is what I start to do, but then I end up going all the way to the edge with the railing pieces. So I do this to start with to see if it works, but it makes it, you can see it's, this courtyard's now shortened, the fountain doesn't work, it's not going to work. So see, like that, it's too short. So what I end up doing is going, I'll just drop that in there. That kind of works like that. And this is what happens when you're designing on the fly. And you know, having had the struggle I did have to find the right height wall for here, it's a compromise I'm happy to make. So there we go, we've got a courtyard defined. We just need to move those pillars out. I'm going to take that fountain out, it's really not working for me. You can see I'm still undecided at this point what I want this to look at, but it actually works out perfectly. There we go, because I want this outside area to have a reasonable size about it. There we go, get rid of that, a couple more pillars in there on the corners and we will be good. Alrighty, so you can see these pillars will either snap on the inside or the outside, which is interesting. Now, skipping ahead a little bit, I'm going to put some walls in here to define this area a little bit more, and you'll start to see those kind of half floors come into play a lot now, because it allows me to define the wall of the courtyard nicely. And if I hadn't put those quarter floors in, I wouldn't be able to do this. A little bit of frame rate drop there, a little bit falling off, lots of stuff going on. The hazards of being a builder. I have got my works hat on, I do have my fluoro jacket on, so don't worry people, it's fine. I'm going to put one of these windows in, like this. Is that the right colour? Yes it is. And just to give you a little way of looking into this area if you're walking past, and you can see we've defined this area a lot more. I've put floors in above. I'd cut that out because I didn't think it was extremely exciting, but it does then make a little kind of channel through here, and we're going to put a door in the end of that alleyway that we were just in, that little corridor, and then that will lead right there, will lead down to the basement. There we go, yeah, down in there. Recently Workshop Range has not only added these walls with windows in, they've actually given you physical windows that you can put in there, so you can leave them without glass or you can put those little inserts in, which are pretty cool, and I like them a lot. The developer of Workshop Range does a lot of work in improving his mod. And the last thing we need to do is just put one of these planters in the center here, and by mistake this actually ends up helping me out to define an area below the stairs and below this area here, and you'll see that in the tour next week what I'm talking about if you pay close attention. So there you go. We'll do a little bit of decoration in here just to show you what it's kind of going to be utilized for, and then we will move on. So I'm going to put a little few planter boxes in. I don't know what's going on with my voice today. My voice is a bit weird today. It's yeah, you can see it's kind of the pitch changed a little bit there. Don't know. So put some of these planters in, and put some benches in, and this is pretty much done. And it doesn't look like much at the moment, but no, we don't want a fridge in there. You will see once we add some more parts of the build and we decorate this up, this is a nice little outdoor area. I end up removing quite a few of these benches. It doesn't quite need this many benches in here, but for now I like doing this just to try and get my head around how this is all going to look. Quick save, and we move on to the next area. Now here is the kind of sales area, and so now we want to start building this area up, add some windows and start to build the accommodation stroke sales, whatever you want to call it. So I use these windows here. I want to space them out a little bit, so just adding them like that, and then I'll take that one out and put that over there. And so you can see it's starting, when you do start to do things like this, it really does start to kind of move your build in the right direction, and you start to get the feel of what you're trying to accomplish, and you know, everything starts to become a lot more apparent about where this is all going. So just trying to get my head around how all these walls are going to work together. There are a few issues here, and the N2 and this is this kind of cell block we're doing now, but these N2 cells for some reason recess themselves, and I'm still not sure why they recess themselves, but they do. So trying to figure out what size I want these cells to be, and initially I kind of do 1.5 walls, and in the end I feel that that's maybe just a bit too generous, so I end up taking these half walls out and just expanding the pattern on the floor, because I don't want big cells. I think that you can see there's a little bit of a see it's recessed there. Got a recess, and I understand why, because they're all the same size, they're all on the same floors. Got no idea why it does that, but you know, I lose patience and just leave it. It adds a little bit of character. So anyway, whatever. See, that one recesses too, but I can't get these to do it, so I have no idea. It's something to do, weird snapping problems. But anyway, we'll just leave it as is, and you can start to see the vision coming to fruition. Look, there we go, and we've added those floors in. Now, what it suddenly occurred to me was that at the end of the corridor, and obviously these look the same on each side, so we're on the opposite side of the building now. I'll initially put these doors in, and I think, well, it actually looks more like a jail rather than an asylum. And you can see I've defined this area in here, and that's going to be a little kind of day room for the residents. So I kind of look at that and go, it's too jail like. That's much more, that says to me much more institute asylum than the previous doors. So run around, change the doors, and it's those little subtle things can really make a difference to the immersive feel of your build. And just by using a different door. So I would encourage you to try and do things like this. Try different elements in your builds and just see what's, because suddenly you add something and it will just make the whole thing kind of make sense. I take that covering at that floor. I've got a kitchen up the other end. I really don't need one up this end. I was going to put one, I was going to do kind of one at each end, but it really doesn't warrant it, so I'm going to put a carpet down there. There we go. There we go. And you can see just by putting walls up, putting some floor coverings down, it really does define areas, and again starts to give you kind of some creative direction. So here's the last little bit, and you can see some details in here. There's some details on the wall, those wood paneling I've put in. And now I've got to kind of figure out the lighting. And when I've looked at back, and when I looked at the tour, I think the lighting, I probably put too much lighting in here. I probably needed to make it a little bit dimmer, just to kind of give it a little bit more atmosphere. And this was, I had been building quite late into the afternoon, so I have tried to brighten this footage up. It is a little bit darker, but you can see this is just repetitive stuff. But these wall lights from Snappy House Kits are spot on for this build. So, you know, I generally do this. I'll get one item and then I'll run around and put them in all the places I need to. And then what I thought was that, well, these individual cells really need lights. I initially put these in on the ceiling, and I think I end up pulling these out in the end because I put individual lights on the cells and instead, and they make much more sense. So I was originally going to put a light like there, and then I flick through and I eventually find the right light. So guys, we're getting right to the end of the build here. All we need to do is put some little lights in and then we're done. And so I hope you have enjoyed this build, and I hope it's been useful, the parts that I've shown, to kind of inspire you to see how the build process works, at least for me. And it kind of will give you some idea how to tackle some of these bigger buildings. And please join us for the tour next week. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised at what we end up coming up with for this asylum. So that's it, guys. Thanks for joining us on Gaming for XP. If you haven't subscribed yet, do yourself a favour, subscribe so you don't miss anything, and we'll catch you next time on the channel. See ya.